If you're pouring your heart into your podcast, but still struggling to turn those listeners into paying clients, I've got something just for you. Imagine having a clear, simple plan to turn your listeners into buyers without relying on a huge audience or spending hours on social media. That's exactly what we'll create together in a podcast profit plan discovery call. During this free 20-minute call, I'll help you discover more opportunities for profit in your podcast and give you the next best step to turn your show into a client attracting machine. If I've got an offer that will help you expedite this process, then we can also discuss working together. Book your free podcast profit plan discovery call now by going to podcastingformoms.co/profit plan or by clicking the link in the show notes. I can't wait to chat with you. You've got a podcast idea, but between diaper changes, client calls, and reheating your coffee for the 30th time, it just hasn't happened yet. Sound familiar? In this episode, I'm sharing the real story of a mom entrepreneur who went from overwhelmed and overthinking to launching her podcast in less than 30 days without burning out or overcomplicating it. We used my MVP framework to help keep it simple, strategic, and sustainable. And the best part is that she did it during nap time and still had energy left for her business and her family. If you've been waiting for a sign that it's possible to podcast in the margins of mom life, this is it. Welcome to Podcasting for Moms, the show for moms in business ready to start, grow, and scale a podcast that turns their listeners into buyers. I'm Jenny Soneson, a podcast strategist and fellow mom entrepreneur. You're in the right place if you want to learn how to start and grow a podcast that attracts your ideal clients and really does the heavy lifting for you when it comes to selling your offers, all while balancing life as a busy mom. Are you ready to create a podcast that grows your income, impact, and influence? Let's make podcasting work for you because as moms, we know how to get things done. All right, let's jump into the episode. Hey there, welcome back to Podcasting for Moms. This week's episode is one of my favorites because we're putting the minimum viable podcast framework into real-world context. So far in this series, we've talked about why your podcast doesn't have to be perfect to make an impact, the 3 biggest mistakes that mom podcasters make, and what the MVP framework actually is and how it works. And today, I'm walking you through how one of my clients went from overwhelmed idea stage to fully launched podcast to staying consistent while running her business and mom life. Because sometimes the most powerful thing is hearing how another mom made it work. Now, the story that I'm sharing today is about a mom who used the MVP framework to launch her podcast for the very first time, but I've also worked with podcasters who already had 10, 20, even 50 plus episodes under their belt. And we use the same framework to help them simplify, reconnect their message, and get consistent once again. So I want you to meet Sarah. So when Sarah came to me, she had a podcast idea that had been sitting on the back burner for at least a year, if not more. She had a bunch of voice notes, 3 different podcast name ideas, and really just zero time to figure out how to actually launch the podcast. She's a mom of 2, running her coaching business part-time, and constantly battling the I should just wait until I have more time feeling. This probably sounds familiar, right? So if you're nodding your head along like, yeah, that's me, then keep listening. So the first thing that we did together inside the MVP framework was to just get rid of all the fluff. So instead of creating a huge content calendar and a 2-page long tech checklist, we focused on the following. The first thing was a clear mission and message, a simple 4-episode launch plan, and a batching-friendly workflow that she could actually stick to. She went from decision paralysis to, oh, this actually feels doable in that first week. So the second thing was creating her MVP Launchpad. So we used my 3-episode Launchpad framework to map out her trailer, her origin story, her mission and message, and a juicy quick win for her audience. There was no fluff involved in these episodes. They were just high-impact content to build trust with her audience right away. And guess what? We didn't spend weeks recording and re-recording. She batch recorded these 3 episodes in 1 nap time block. The third thing we did is we created a plug-and-play workflow so that she knew exactly what needed to happen each week, from outlining and recording to editing and publishing. And because she's inside the Moms Behind the Mic Society, she also had access to my recording checklist, my Airtable content tracker, and monthly co-working sessions for accountability. She didn't have to figure it all out alone, and that's what made the difference. Sarah launched her podcast in less than 30 days. She released bi-weekly episodes consistently for 3+ months. She also started landing podcast guest opportunities within the first couple weeks of launching her show. And she told me that this is the first time something in her business felt really easy. That is the power of the MVP framework. So you may be wondering why this matters to you. So I'm sharing this story because I know how easy it is to think, I don't have time, I need to figure out a better system first, or I'm not ready. But you are ready with the right strategy and support. You don't need to wait until your kids are older or your schedule magically clears up. You can launch now in the margins just like Sarah did. In the final episode of this series, I'm going to be walking you through how I stay consistent with my podcast as a busy mom and how you can too. We're talking batching, templates, and realistic rhythms that don't require superhuman energy. So if consistency has been your struggle, you don't want to miss this episode. If you're feeling fired up and you want support mapping out your own minimum viable podcast, here's how we can work together. You can apply for one-on-one podcast coaching to build your MVP plan with me, or you can join the Moms Behind the Mic Society, to get access to the exact tools, frameworks, and support that Sarah used to launch her own show. You don't have to have it all. You just have to take the first step, and I'd love to help you do that. All the links are in the show notes, as always. All right, I'll talk to you next week. Thank you for tuning into Podcasting for Moms. I hope today's episode gave you the tools and inspiration you need to make your podcast work smarter, not harder. If you love what you heard, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. It means the world and helps other moms in business find the show. For more tips, resources, and support, head to podcastingformoms.co. Remember, you're not just building a podcast, you're building your legacy. Until next time, friends.